every farmer knows every cow has a personality, a way of acting, a way of sitting down, a way of standing up. And Joe went into the problem of the cow as a study of the cow.
I know cows well. Like I've milked thousands of cows when I was a kid. 2 cows in the morning, 2 cows at night, 3 cows in the morning, 4 cows at night. Every day from the age of about 8, 9 on.
Joe says that everything that's in abstract art today is sort of in a cow.
Thinking of not having fun is wrong. Thinking that everything we do has to be useful, and that there is no time to spend our life enjoying this life, that we should be in the pursuit of gain, is wrong. That often it is just a matter of having fun. You see them piling up like a nice little assembly line. Or you sell them as a little souvenir. Somebody comes in, they don't want to buy a big piece. Sell them a little cow for $1, I've made about, rough estimate, between 300 and 400 from this mold. Little cows like this. I make this when I'm watching TV, just so I don't totally waste my time. You can cut that out.
For sure. 100-car train. That other one there. There's average 100-car train.
George is a retired ex-railway station railroads agent.
Pense, Saskatchewan, a little town on the main line of the CPR, a few miles west of Regina. The population has declined, but there are still about 300 people living in Pense. Joe Fafard settled here recently. He was born in a small community over near the Manitoba border. Now, 31 years later, he's discovering the people of Pense.
Pense then was a very thriving town. We had a doctor, we had a druggist, we had a harness maker, we had 3 outlets of stores, a good restaurant, and a hotel. But then the hotel was folding then in the 30s. So they got him in the bootlegging racket and they closed him up. They wouldn't give him a license.
George is the real active old gent, He takes his walk every day, maybe twice a day now that it's nice, He's the kind of guy that tries to have a new experience all the time, And he's 83 years old and his health is hanging on, So he's from Newfoundland. Came here when he was 19. His father was a sea captain. George came out here for a few years and he's never went back.
After he started to come out here, there's been 5 trailers come in here since and settled right in this town from Regina. And I believe Joe had something to do with telling them, well, that's your place to go. It's a short distance from the 2 cities, 16 miles from the city of Regina and about 22 miles from Moose Jaw.
Hamburger bun and a side of chips and fried chicken on one.
I got to do in Eva's portrait last summer. Susan stayed with her parents for 4 or 5 days with the kids. So I just got really lazy and I didn't want to do any cooking. So I ate at the cafe and the idea for the portrait came.
The labor attacking,
I know, I realize. I went to Vancouver for a year and I just was so glad to get back here, right even in the middle of winter. I was glad to be back in Pense. And if you're lonesome some night, you look out, you see somebody's lights on, you go over and visit for a while.
I am more than her.
He done me, he sculptured me. And I didn't know he was doing it. And he showed me at the horticultural show up here, and somebody come down from the hall and said, you better come on up the hall and see yourself. Golly, I walked in the door and I said there was no mistaking who it was, I tell you. I was standing there with my feet crossed. It was just so real. It was. So anyway, I asked Joe how much he wanted for it. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give it to you for half price. And I said, what's half price? He said, $100. I said, oh my God, I'm not worth that. Alive, let alone done that. Anyway, 2 or 3 days afterwards, he came in with a letter, and they said, we've sold Eva, so I'm gone.
This Winnipeg showing is one of a series being held across the prairies, establishing Joe as a truly Western artist. He's also being recognized internationally in both New York and Paris. Although he's now earning his living chiefly from teaching, this could change as his works are becoming more widely known.
Except for the... No, I disagree. You wouldn't, for instance, in England see the haircuts or the pencil sticking out of the pocket.
Do you think he's watching television?
Could be. Could be. But this old boy sitting on the settee, he could be anywhere in the world.
I don't think there's any patent place going on there.
Don't think so.
The West has been devoid of a vital mythology or a vital story about itself for a long period of time. And what's happened in the prairies in Canada for the last 5 or 6 years at least is that a new kind of story about ourselves has been taking place, and it's mostly a story of the farmer. And I think that the younger artists such as Joe are working very strongly towards the creation of a vital living cultural context and cultural explanation, which is a mythology.
There has been rumors that he's doing a lot of Pense work in sculpture, and he's drifting out of Pense. He even caught one at Rollo. The reason I think he's a genius in his own work, because he has very little competition.
You know, there's a track across the street bringing in people and frozen meat. There's vegetables for the grocery store, 4 in automobiles.
Joe has done a tremendous lot for Pense for the time he's been here. He's put Pense on the map. And that's the reason that I'm backing him up every time, and I know that I got the backing of other people too, because Joe can be fit in anywhere.
Yodel, 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 dee, I wait for the trains. Can you feel the rumble on your window pane by the wail of the late night train?
Hi, Johnny, you're working hard. Yeah. How are you keeping anyway? Good. Johnny, that's fine. Got this all fixed up pretty good, eh?
I'll tell you what I'm doing here.
Oh.
I'm putting in a row of raspberries.
You are, eh?
For the people who walk by here.
Yeah, they'll be able to pick the raspberries.
Yeah. It'll also keep the kids out of the garden, you see.
Well, you got to quit this ceramics and go into gardening, I can see that.
Yeah.
When you come back from Paris, I don't know. I guess your wife will be gone, I'm afraid.
Yeah. You think so? Let's go down.
Yeah.
Go down. A small town like this, it's more human size for me. It's not like a huge city where what happens need not necessarily be part of you at all. The people are still people, and the characters are the individual, unique. And whatever interaction happens between people here is, depends on what kind of characters are in the play, This is a dream I had when I was 27, and I only had it once, and it came at a time where it puzzled me because the things that the dream seemed to be dealing with are not things that I was dealing with at the time. Like I felt I had resolved those questions. I was 18 again, and I was back in the small hamlet that I was brought up in, and there was a priest in it, and a store, and whatnot, and we lived at one end of town, and the church was at the other end. In this dream, I took off all my clothes, and I walked down the road of the hamlet, and nobody paid attention, except when I got to the front of the church. Then the priest came out of the rectory, and it was a nice old priest that I admire very much still, but he came out and he was screaming and he was coming towards me, and I became very frightened, and I decided that my only real course was to stand up to this thing. And the more I gained power to stare at him, he got smaller, until I had to kneel down in the gravel to look at him, and there he was down there still screaming. Well, instead of picking him up, I just swat him with my hand, and when I turned it over, there was a little dead yellow bird there. And then in my dream, my mother walked by, and she saw this little dead yellow bird. She didn't make any comment on the fact that I was naked. She just said, "Ça c'est de valeur," which means that's too bad, but it means a little more. It means that was of some value as well, you know. Now when I do make a portrait of somebody, I shrink them so far in clay, I don't have to get them any smaller or distort them or turn them into monsters. It's a way of learning how to love these people rather than putting them down for being themselves, you know. We'd always thought we'd like to live out in the country, you know, get out of the city. We didn't really like the city. We're both from the country, and one day we got the word that this house was available. Came to see it, liked it, saw that we had everything here we needed, and so we moved here. We thought at first we'd be a little lonely out here, but we haven't missed the city at all.
He kind of daydream a lot when he was doing work on the farm. Sometimes we thought he was in the field, but he was in the field, but he was somewhere else too. Was that right, Joey?
What's that?
When you thought you were in the field, you were somewhere else too.
Sometimes upstairs.
In the 6 boys we had, they all had their way of doing things. Like my son, Bernard, he's a building mover and a farmer at the same time. Joey, well, he was an artist. He started off with hardly nothing and kept on his work. And Philip, well, he had something else to do. And Guy was a good farmer. And Claude, well, he had his little way in life, and he became a lawyer. And then Jacques, well, he's the youngest one. That was really our baby boy. But we had 3 girls after him. We couldn't afford Christmas gifts, so we made them. I made a thrashing machine once, and I'm sorry now that it burned down, because it was very nice.
She was making cows a long time before I was. I remember when I was going to art school and painting things like all kinds of far out abstract paintings, and I'd bring them home at the end of the term. She didn't say anything, you know, about them, but she'd sort of look at them and say, well, you know, when are you going to stop fooling around? In the meantime, she was making things like cow things, you know. This is a clay cow that she made. She made it for me. It's a boy milking cows, you know, and she made it just at the point when you're sitting down to milk the cow, and you're trying to get the cow to move her leg, you know. That's why the arm is up here and the pail is there. Growing up with 11 brothers and sisters besides myself was really an experience I wouldn't have missed for anything. It was very good for us because we were sort of in an isolated area here, isolated from the surroundings because we were French and not English, so we didn't participate in the scene at Ropenville, for instance. And we were a little too far from Saint-Lazare, another French town, to really be part of that. So we were sort of an insular little place here. And being so many in the family, we always found companionship with each other. None of us learned to play a musical instrument. That might be we don't have any talent, but it also might be that whenever somebody would start sawing on a violin, he'd get his ears boxed before too long. But a quiet little activity like drawing and painting fitted in pretty well because you can sort of sneak out into a corner of the house, or in the summertime when everybody's spread around outside, you can draw inside or something like that.
I always say they don't take after me. Most of them take after their dad, because he was very, I wouldn't know how to say it in English, but he was a man of great virtue, their dad. And I think they do remember him as that too.
The one of my dad was very strong, like the urge to do it this way, because I knew him so well, but I'm getting to know somebody pretty well, then the image gets, really strong.
And then give me blankets,
This is Jan Wire, a farmer who all his life has been painting, just for fun.
You know that painting? I made it for this, put on the bed.
That's one of the last pictures I make it.
Yeah.
I make it at home in Kipling.
I bought that one from you. Do you remember that? I bought it?
Oh, yeah.
It was quite an experience for me to go and see the old man and see his present situation, to see the kind of personality that has been producing these paintings that I've been appreciating for so many years, I think Jan Wires just personifies what I advocate in work, is a nice naturalness and a way of doing things that doesn't depend on formula and rules and stuff like that, but depends on an inner sense about things that John Wire seems to just naturally do, and I think that he, for me, stood for that. Oh, I'm doing a drive-in cup. The cows are out watching a film in the pasture. This farmer is very considerate to his animals, and he gives them cow films every week. The bull's going to be paying a visit next week, so they're trying to get the cows into the right frame of mind. For me, when I was a kid, species didn't have a sex. Like, to me, cows were mothers and horses were fathers. I think that came to me because of the French language, like you have gender in French, un cheval, ou une vache. And the way I understood that as a kid was cow is mother, and it becomes Mother Nature. Like in my cups, when I make a scene there, it's more like the presence of nature or the presence of God or whatever, One evening we went to a drama thing that was put on by the High Sea Club here. And I saw that there was a lot of energy, you know, in these young people, that if somebody took any trouble, you know, to direct it, they would just do something with it. So I asked our babysitter, who's part of that group, if they were interested in doing something, and she said that they wanted to do a turtle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's very, very difficult, I know. It's because I'm also teaching at an art school where you may have between 50 and 70 students under your care. How do you get each one to have a real experience? When somebody goes to an art school who has some kind of vision, I think that it should be carefully allowed to nurture, to grow, you know, instead of being wiped out and new seeds planted in its place. Not so hard. Get closer to it before you let it go. Good.
Oh, okay, good. Could I have another handful, please? There is not another handful. I got some.
So don't breathe on that now. I've tried different things, you know, and some have worked better than others. And one that I think has worked to a certain degree is the group sessions where we built one piece of sculpture all together, sort of on a master-apprentice kind of situation. It isn't like the last word in art educating. Personally, wouldn't really want to work on a group project at this stage of my development, but at a certain time I think it would have been great fun, and it might have brought across the idea that art is a way of spending your time as well as making a statement. You know, I had a grasshopper in mind, but it was a group thing, so I just said, okay, we'll do a turtle. They wanted the cost, and I told them about $125. Ended up costing about $80. It's just a joy, you know, to make these things out of clay and get the thing just right. I think it's the same joy that Henry Moore would get out of making his abstract reclining nudes, you know, big forms there. But I'm a little man, so I don't have to work that big, you know, to get that kind of kick.